Chapter 9. Attempts to expel the church from Niue.
Expel is a word quite familiar in Mormon history. Webster's dictionary offers the following definition: to drive or force out. That is precisely what the other religion had been attempting to do to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for nearly a year since our arrival on Niue. Now their continuing attempts to drive us off the island began on an entirely different front than the island itself. The new battlefront was the New Zealand Parliament. Since Niue was a territory of New Zealand, it was governed by the New Zealand Parliament. A petition created by the other church and delivered to the New Zealand government requested that the Mormon Church be completely removed from the island of Niue. The petition was given to Mr. T. Clifton Webb, Minister of Island Territories, who did not provide a satisfactory answer. The petitioners then requested that the documents go beyond him and be presented to the New Zealand Parliament, which Mr. Webb did. This action led to several news articles. For example, in early January 1953, an article appeared in the Auckland Star, stating that the Mormon missionaries had disturbed the Niueans and needed to be removed. The article quoted a Mr. Craig, Foreign Secretary of the London Missionary Society, who presented the petition for expulsion. He was quoted as saying that he had been reliably informed that when the Niueans had agreed to come under British rule, the stipulation was made that there should be only one Christian denomination on the island. He also said that the Mormon missionaries had not made much progress and that their presence disturbed the islanders. Following are excerpts of a few of the more than 15 letters to the editor that were published in newspapers on this subject. Letters in support of the expulsion came from leaders and sympathizers of the other church. Neutral comments came from several observers. Letters in support of religious tolerance came from many good friends and members of our church, with our own dear President Otley leading the way. President Otley later told us that the newspapers had received many more letters, but that wise editors had rejected them because of their extreme content. Letters from proponents of expulsion. Jack Niue, January 24, 1953. I went to Niue in September 1952 and left again in October. There are 2 Mormon representatives in Niue. They are trying hard to break the peace. Niue Island has had only one religion from the beginning, when Paul and Benjamin brought the gospel of God to Niue. I only wish that the government would remove the Mormons from Niue right away. That would save a lot of trouble with the natives. John Coughley, January 27, 1953.
The Niue people distrust and resent the coming of the Mormon mission. This is confirmed by the very natural, sincere letter of Jack Niue in Saturday's Star. I paid an official visit to Niue in 1927. All Niueans are devout Christians. All the Mormons could do is to proselytize some simple, genuine Christians to their own sect, thus introducing schism and dissension within the village family or between village and village. Mormons could better direct their energies to the heathen. In their own interests, the Niue villagers should keep their communities closed to Mormon infiltration, and our government should not in any way facilitate it.
Letters from neutral observers. PJG, January 28, 1953. Recent correspondence suggests an urgent need for greater tolerance between the denominations in the mission field. The field is large and the laborers are few. Our own non-church-goers and the island people alike look to the Christian community for tolerance and charity. If they cannot find it in our actions, they will certainly never be persuaded by our preaching. Arthur Wright, January 1953. Surely a monopoly to any religious body anywhere could be but a menace, risk, and danger for human nature, church or otherwise. Misuses power if given the chance. I was not and am not a Mormon, yet personally advise fair play, an open field and no favor. My association with the Mormons has revealed to me that they are honest, true-living, decent, God-fearing men. Now, sir, as a tree is judged by its fruits, I ask, have any of the Pacific's Mormon missions been a curse, or in any way harmful to the native peoples or anyone else? I must offer a resounding no. Letters from church members and friends, quote, "We shall continue with the lion's boldness," end quote. George Hall, January 28, 1953. I've been associated with the Mormon elders for more than 60 years. I have seen nothing but good in their deep devotion to duty for the Christ, and decency and proper decorum towards the Maori people. Anything the Mormon elders have to impart should never be denied the good people of Niue. They are free people in a free country, and are at liberty to dip into fountains wherever the rod of Moses has struck, to drink therefrom and be filled freely and without price. President Sidney J. Ottley, January and February 1953. A summary of many articles he wrote. Our elders went into Niue with the full consent of the New Zealand and Niue authorities. We have paid our way, and we go about our business. We have a purpose that is nobody's business except those who see the beauty of it and desire to listen. We accept no responsibility for the contention of any individual or group. We accept the admonition of the Master to go into all the world and preach the gospel to all nations, all tongues, and all people. If men choose to flee or howl when none are pursuing or throwing stones at them, then let them do so. As for us, whom some seek to belittle and deprive us of our legal rights to do what we choose to accept as our duty, we shall continue in our present course with the lion's boldness, as spoken of by the wise man Solomon. The elders of the church are in Niue at their own expense. They are peaceable and law-abiding. They are men who teach peace on earth and goodwill to all men, in their word and in their lives. We would that our aggressive friends would do as well. Our teaching presumes not only to teach the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ, but to help people to live it. Ours is a doctrine of free agency, not of coercion or frightening. I would that our aggressors could say the same, in truth. Free to stay on Niue. Later news articles indicated that Mr. T. Clifton Webb, Minister of Island Territories, did take the petition to the New Zealand Parliament for consideration. However, it was never heard because the petition was not framed according to parliamentary standing orders. It was returned to its framers for revision, after which it was to be referred to a standing committee of the House for review. Apparently the petition was never redrawn. It therefore died at that point. Later that year, on August 10, 1953, Mr. C. E. H. Quinn, Assistant Secretary of Island Territories of New Zealand, paid a visit to Niue. His objective, among other things, was to hold a hearing concerning whether or not the Mormon Church should stay on Niue Island. Apparently the other church, which had such a stronghold upon every aspect of life in Niue, was still making efforts to get the Mormon Church ejected from the island. The hearings were co-chaired by Mr. Quinn and Commissioner Larson. Many of our Niuean saints were interviewed, including Solomona, Rangi Whakahoa, and Tongitama. There were many others. Elder Christensen's journal offers the following. August 10th, 1953, Brother Tongitama went down to Alofi today to attend a meeting called by Mr. Larson and Mr. Quinn concerning the Mormon Church. They had a very good meeting, and Mr. Quinn, who is Assistant Secretary to Island Territories, was very pleased with the church here on Niue. He assured the brethren and sisters that the church would not have to leave Niue. End quote. Elder Thomas E. Slade, the missionary who was soon to come to Niue and replace me as district president, made the following note in a letter to his parents, dated October 1954. Quote, "There is what is called a counselor in each of the 12 villages here in Niue, and altogether they are called the Island Council. They have meetings about once a month to discuss village and island affairs. In their last meeting, last week, they tried again to have the Mormons taken off Niue, but to no avail." End quote. The efforts of the adversary still go on. We accept those efforts as another testimony of the truthfulness of our work. Back to business as usual. By March 1953, we had baptized more than 100 people, and the work was moving along well. In his letter of March 14, 1953, President Otley informed us that he had applied for permission to send more missionaries to Niue. Later correspondence indicated that he had received it. Baptisms were continuing. Elder Christensen recorded, "April 7, 1953, today we held a baptism at Makefu Cave, Avaiki. We baptized 15 from Alofi, Liku, Toi, and Makefu. We left on a truck at 5 p.m., picked up the people, and got into Makefu at 8 p.m. Held a meeting at Tohovaka's home, then went down to the cave. Brother Starr, owner of the Bluebell, and Sam, his son, were among those baptized, along with Sister Fioni Tauhikupala Hekau and her daughter Etenalovi Hekau. Tui Maitoga and Kauwe, 2 of the boys mentioned in Chapter 8, were also baptized. After the baptism, we returned to Makefu, where we held another meeting and did the confirmations. Arrived in Alofi at 12 p.m. We had a full day. I'm really tired." End quote. More missionaries for Niue. President Otley's letter to us, dated May 5, 1953, announced that 2 more missionaries were on their way to join us at Niue. They'd been interviewed in Salt Lake City by Elder Matthew Cowley, who said he thought they would be suitable for island life and would make good missionaries. They were to travel via the Aorangi, my old ship, to Suva, Fiji. There they would board the Tofua, bound for Niue. President Otley indicated that his plan was to meet them on June 9th in Suva and then join them on their trip to Niue. He estimated their arrival in Niue to be June 19th. He also said that due to shortness of time, we would have to train these new young elders in the ways we carried out missionary work in Niue. He cautioned us that we should give the pleasant side of the story, as they are young, both 21, and will need a bit of encouragement, never having any missionary experience before taking on the island. Perhaps that will be an advantage. Of course, we were excited to receive the news. Elder Thomas E. Slade and Elder Harold L. Bailey were both from Salt Lake City, Utah. During the next 6 weeks, we prepared for their coming. The new elders arrive. On June 19, 1953, the Tofua brought Elder Slade and Elder Bailey to Niue Island. President Otley was with them. It was a wonderful, joyful day to see the work now receiving new blood and gaining strength. Both of these elders were excited at finally arriving after such a long journey. They were fine young men, filled with the spirit of their calling, and they were eager to get started on the challenges that they knew were ahead. Elder Christensen wrote the following entry in his journal, quote, "June 19th, 1953, Koeaho Falaili." Today is Friday. "It was a very rainy day all day long and made things most miserable. The Tofua arrived about 8 o'clock. President Otley, Elder Bailey, and Elder Slade were on it. We had a good time with President Otley while he was here. We had a fia at the Bluebell, after which we took care of all the business. We also really had a nice visit with the new elders. Elder Goodman and I went out to the ship for a private meeting with President Otley. I was advised that I would be leaving Niue on the 10th of September and would go to Suva, Fiji. I would fly home from there. I guess I won't be seeing the president again until we get back to Zion. Had a most enjoyable day. Our new elders seem to be very nice fellows. The Tofua left early today." End quote. The new elders quickly got into the routine of things, as we had been planning for several weeks. They soon became friends and teachers of our ever-growing flock. They loved the work and the people, and gave all their strength and energy to help improve the lives of our members. We were now beginning to create little branches in many of the back villages. The people soon grew to love these fine young servants of God. Since we shared a love of God our Father and His Son Jesus Christ, and a sincere love and devotion to truth and to each other, many wonderful things could, and did, begin to happen. Geologist looking for fresh water. At about this time, the New Zealand government, realizing the need for a freshwater source and system for Niue Island, sent a geologist to examine the potential. His name was Mr. Jim Shoefield. Because we'd been in and explored some of the major caves of Niue, which are many in number, some nearly 2 miles long, Brother Tongiatama and I were asked to accompany him. Brother Tongiatama, of course, had the greater knowledge of their locations and sizes. There is a freshwater system in place in Niue today. However, much of the water is still supplied by iron roof rain runoffs into collection cisterns. Apparently, there was not adequate fresh water available from the caves.